Hello everyone,
Greetings.
those who know us and those who are just discovering us. My name is Maria
I'm Marquise.
and this is the Nuts and Bolts with Marquines. So technical tips on everything art making.
That's fair.
Okay. We have had quite a few inquiries about color swatches, these little pieces of paper. By the way, in the language of color online course that Mark teaches, and you will see me there as a student, students produce sometimes hundreds of these color swatches.
Correct.
But for those who haven't taken the language of color and are still playing with papers because you either saw it on Instagram, social media, maybe here on YouTube, or took maybe the mini course, The Process Unveiled, we have these inquiries and people are frustrated sometimes with the paper curling,
Yes.
folding,
Applying
and when they
the
apply
glue.
it crinkles, it tears.
Even applying the paint.
Yes, when they apply the paint, they say it curls and it folds, and then they get frustrated when they're putting it on a support because it will either bubble or fold
Wrinkles.
or wrinkle or all these things. So we wanted to make this really technical tips YouTube video
Yes.
for you, Mark, to explain how to apply paint, maybe talk a little bit about the paper, how to apply paint, and then how to use these in your artwork.
In your designs.
Okay, I'm gonna jump out and I'm gonna leave you with Mark. Here you go.
Very good. As Maria mentioned previously, when we devised our language of color workshop both online and in person, we use these marker papers to create lots and lots of different color swatches. We're calling these swatches. And artists can use these in a variety of ways. If they're working with mixed media and collage, they're terrific because this is a very thin yet durable rag paper and it lays down very, very flat. That's number one. But also, we just spoke with some artists recently on a get-together on Zoom, and some of them just have them in their studio to remind them of how to get certain colors. So, I want to show you the paper. Maria, can you see this okay? This is the paper we use. The manufacturer in this case is Bianfang, but I think other manufacturers also make this marker paper. The key is marker paper, 100% rag. This particular size is 14 by 17. This is the large pad. They come in smaller sizes as well. They're anywhere from 50 sheets to 100 sheets, I believe. All right then, this is my setup. I have the paper here. I'm going to do a couple of demonstrations. I've got brushes, which I'll discuss in a moment. A container with matte medium. I have paper towel. And this is actually a ceramics tool that I use. It's called a catalyst wedge. It's silicone and it's great for smoothing, as you will see when I apply it to a substrate. And then I've got this wire brush to make a point about these two brushes. I really like this brand, which is Princeton. I got this, I believe, on the Dick Blick website. This one's obviously brand new. It's a 1-inch. This one I've had for years. Why am I showing you these two? Well, you can see with the new one, it's very flexible. That's great. This one, what happens over a period of time if you don't take good care of your brushes is the matte medium starts to collect in this area here. And now I've only got this part that is flexible. So how to avoid that, and I've been a little remiss, is when you're done using your brush to take either this kind of wire brush or something smaller and run it through under warm water, and that will get most of that matte medium out from underneath this area, and your brushes will last a great deal longer. So I just wanted to point that out. All right, now what I'm going to do next is to create some color on here, and I'm going to go to my palette, get some paint on my brush, and I will be right back. This first swatch, I've got the color orange, obviously, and I've really thinned it down with a fair amount of water. And that is because you can see the brushwork. that can be fun, actually. It could be really nice to have brushwork in when you apply this to your designs. However, it should be noted that the moment I have a fair amount of water, you can really see that starting to curl quite a bit. And this is part of the problem that artists have. They go, oh my gosh, it's curling. We're going to deal with this later, so let's not panic. But I also want to show you what happens when the paint is thicker and how that's a little bit different. Now for this one, my paint's considerably thicker. You can see that. I did add water. You need just enough water to get it to move. If the paint's right out of the tube, you theoretically could do that, but it's a little awkward. So just enough water, and you can see how much thicker that is. If you don't like the brush strokes, then you have to kind of very delicately go back over it. I don't mind it myself, but here I am just trying to eradicate much of that brushwork. Notice how the paper is curling on the edges, but not nearly as much as the one that had a lot of water to it. Plus, obviously, they're different colors because of the water. So these are going to dry in a matter of minutes, really.
They'll be dry to touch.
They'll be dry to touch, exactly. This is the problem for a lot of artists who are not familiar with this paper, and they're really annoyed and upset and freaking out because it's curling up. This happens. What to do? It's very simple. Once this dries to touch, it really has to dry out. You can simply put books and weight on it. Now be careful. If you're doing more than one swatches together and they're not fully dry, they're going to stick to one another. So make sure they're very, very dry before you do this. It doesn't matter how curled up they get. As long as there's good application, whether it's thin or whether it's thick. Putting them between some heavy books and letting it sit there for literally a few hours will really help. It is true that sometimes in bringing them out to apply them, they might start to curl a little bit more. Just again, put good weight on them. And this is how they end up being like this. Very, very flat. Very smooth, very flat. That's the key. What I'm going to do next is to show you how I apply this on a support in my artwork. Okay? As it turns out, I have a wood support. People ask, can you do this on canvas that's been stretched? And the answer is it's very difficult because the canvas is pushing in and out. Some people actually put something under the canvas, maybe some wood or something to make that happen. You can also apply this to heavy paper, and I do that quite a bit when I work on paper. So this is the support, this is a swatch. Now you can see on this one I've got a lot of brush work. So let's begin. Here's my old one here. The first thing to do is to apply liberally.
You don't normally do that on the support.
No, I don't. Normally, you're right, Maria. Normally I do this on a piece of paper nearby. Can I do that now, or does it matter?
That's fine, just for the purpose of this video. Don't do this at home.
Maria makes a very good point. Normally I've got artwork going on here and I'm adding to the design. I just chose to have a blank canvas. But oftentimes I have this on a piece of paper or cardboard nearby, and then I apply.
Because what happens is, you can see it's the glue that will go off the edges.
Yes.
And imagine that it was a piece of art, then you would have glue all over.
So here I've applied a fair liberal amount of this on this paper, and you can see it's curling.
What are you applying? What is this?
This is matte medium. Thank you. Matte medium. And I'm just going to pick a spot here. Doesn't matter because I'll be working on this eventually down the road. And we'll just place this color right here for the moment, just without even really thinking about it. Again, a fairly liberal amount. Sometimes people are not generous enough, and that's a problem. Why is it a problem? Because if they're not generous enough, they get lots of wrinkles and bubbles and all kinds of things, and it doesn't play nice. And sometimes they'll get little bubbles and wrinkles. Now, here's the thing. I applied it on the back of this paper. I applied it on the substrate. That's 2 times. Now it's important that I apply it a 3rd time here on the paper itself. So it's hard for you to see, folks, but there's a little wrinkle in here, there's some bubbles in here. The first line of defense is to make sure you have a liberal amount of glue. If you don't have enough glue, a matte medium in this case, you won't be able to get this out easily. So the first thing I'm doing is trying to work it out, these bubbles and wrinkles, with my stiff brush. That's why a stiff brush. But even here you can see a little bit of bubbling. So I just take my time and I work in this fashion to sort of get them out. And most of the times you can get much of that out. However, what really helps is this catalyst wedge. With this, you can really get it to lay flat. That looks like I've just painted right onto the surface. Now, here's another tip. Sometimes people have residue on the paper, and that's not good, because if you have even the slightest amount of residue on the paper, it's going to dry and it's going to be milky. So it's important that if you have any residue on the paper swatch that you're adhering to your support, to take a paper towel like I'm doing now and to wipe that. So when I'm working on my collages, I'm using all kinds, not just the marker paper, but I might use a piece of design like this. It's the same idea. I always go to the back of the piece and I'm liberal with the amount of matte medium I'm using. I go to the support itself. Again, I'm liberal. I adhere this to where I want it to be. In this case, I'll just line it up there. And then one more time here, so that's 3 times. Using this stiff brush to try to remove all the wrinkles and bubbles. But then ultimately, I come in with this wedge. And it lays very, very flat. So there you have the swatch that you make from the marker paper and any other papers that you want. If the paper starts to become too thick, then you're going to, if you're using much thicker paper, like this paper here is quite thick, I would probably at this point use something like this. This is matte super gel. In this case, it's Liquitex. It's thicker, it's a paste, and that really does a good job getting your thicker papers down. All right. I hope this helps. And Maria mentioned that one of the reasons we're doing this is some artists are just now starting to take the language of color course. But also people who have taken the course sometimes struggle a little bit with this, and we felt that it was time to sort of help out in that fashion. If you're curious about the language of color or design or drawing, please visit Mark Eanes Academy at markeanes.com, and there you'll see lots of links for my teaching online courses. Thanks again.